The Denver Broncos just get 3 pieces of sneaky good news that shatter the narrative that somehow we're crawling our way into the NFL playoffs. We're backing in. We should apologize for being there. Absolutely not. We're going to break it all down and more in this video. If you're new to this channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me and the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. All year long, it has felt like it has been internally Broncos country trying to rave against all of the outside noise of teams being like, oh, we're the worst in football, like we're the 31st ranked team going into the season, and we've had to remind them, like, do you not remember our 5-game win streak against winning teams last year? Do you not remember how we did with like a quarterback Sean Payton didn't like? Well, we're going to be way better. Well, now it is almost like internally there's this amount of doubt from Broncos fans where we're like, oh, we've had 3 games. All we had to do was win 1. And we've like jumped ship way too soon. And this video is hopefully going to be the rebuttal to that. Cause like Denver Broncos, we are actually a very, very good team. We are in a perfect position to make noise in the playoffs. The first one here, massive shout out to Bryno on Twitter who dropped this out here. One of the ways that you can identify like a team and if they're going to have a bounce back year the next year, if they're going to have a fall off year, is looking how they performed in 1-score games. And if they disproportionately win those 1-score games, just the oblong way that ball bounces, it's going to bounce the other way the next year. And so you look at the Minnesota Vikings with when they won all those games with Kirk Cousins a couple years ago, they got to the playoffs and they were horrible. Well, they won a disproportionate amount of 1-score games, and in the playoffs, like, that's just not how it goes. Like, you can't continue to get that lucky time and time again, and they got bounced that first round of the playoffs with the Minnesota Vikings. The Broncos are on the other side of that. We have lost an insane amount of 1-score games, almost more than you can even fathom, that every single game that we have lost this year, and we haven't lost to any bad teams this entire year. Every team we've lost to has been a playoff team or a playoff contender, and every loss except for the Baltimore Ravens loss has been within 1 score. So if you were to flip the result of all those 1-score games, we would actually be the best team in the entire NFL right now. That in and of itself is proof that we are a good team, that you have only been one time this entire season that we've gotten embarrassed, and that was the Baltimore Ravens. Tough place to play. That's also why I want nothing to do with the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. But the way the bracket's shaping out, it doesn't look like that would even happen until the AFC Championship game. Next piece of great news that shows that this Broncos team isn't one that's limping its way into the playoffs is how many dudes amongst the youngest team in football, I guess the 3rd youngest team in football, are Pro Bowlers or alternates for the Pro Bowl. So we will have several, like probably 5 or 6 Broncos repping this team in the Pro Bowl. It all depends on who goes there and when the Super Bowl falls. But we have 3 locks in the Pro Bowl. We have Pat Surtain, Mims, and Benito all in there. And then we've got a ton of alternates who are going to be there depending on what other team from the AFC makes the playoffs or makes the Super Bowl, and therefore theirs aren't showing up to the Pro Bowl. So that, again, is evidence that, like, oh, if you have this many guys who are the top 10 at their position, you're not a team that's limping into the playoffs. And then even just looking like Bo Nix outranking Patrick Mahomes when it comes to Pro Bowl votes, phenomenal. His numbers are looking better than Patrick Mahomes. And then this analytic got dropped from PFF today, which I thought was phenomenal. It was like, we are thrilled with Bo Nix's production this year as a rookie. We know he's just going to be way better next year than he was even this year. And year 2 of him learning Sean Payton's system is going to be wild, and 3 and 4 and 5, like, and beyond. We have the new Drew Brees, but like a more mobile Drew Brees probably, which is exciting to think of what that ceiling is. And Bo Nix, even though his production has drastically outranked what we thought, he was projected to have 15 touchdown passes this whole season. He already has accounted for 30 touchdowns, and he has another game left to go. And he leads the league when it comes to dropped passes. And so you just think like, whoa, what would his production be? It's already way beyond what we had thought it would be. And he's had a ton of drops. Like, imagine his production, the yards that he'll account for, the touchdowns he'll account for if he doesn't go into next year having 25 drops and being amongst the top 3 dudes when it comes to drop balls. Also, that's a scary stat there for Herbert, that Herbert doesn't have a lot of offensive talent around him either when they shipped off Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, their running back Eckler, so it's scary to me to think what the Chargers could be once they build around Herbert as well. But this is a phenomenal stat that Bo Nix is going to continue to get better as he's not a rookie, and hopefully he doesn't lead the league with dropped passes next year. Last piece of evidence that proves like this Broncos team isn't one backing into the playoffs. We have now been flexed into primetime 2 times over the past 3 weeks. That Thursday night game, everybody wants to see Bo. That Saturday night game, everybody wanted to see Bo. And then this Sunday, we are back to truly being able to say this is Broncos country. Living out of state now, we moved from Longmont area to Michigan during COVID. And I was checking out the NFL distribution map each and every week to be like, oh, is the Broncos game going to be on here, or am I going to have to use Sunday Ticket to get the Broncos game? Well, we are back in our rightful place. Everywhere in red, you will be watching the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. And let's make that orange because the Broncos are going to beat a bunch of backups to make the playoffs, which is where they deserve to be. Other fantastic, great news as we move into this must-win game against the Kansas City Chiefs is that we continue to get more and more healthy. I think this is a huge testament to Sean Payton and how he has run things, that we went from under Nathaniel Hackett, we were the most injured team in football. Last year, we were the most healthy team in football, and this year we are in the top 3 of healthy teams going into the end of that season, and we have a little longer week here with 9, we played Saturday and then we play again on Sunday. So you have a little extra long week and we are just healing up at the perfect time. Conversely, you look at the Chiefs injury report and it is looking now like we will have 7 players who are going to be sitting. I just know that the Denver Broncos will not look at past this game. They know how important this game is. And I have no doubt about it that they are going to play with everything on the line here. They're going to leave nothing left in that clip. They're emptying the clip on the Kansas City Chiefs, bringing our record to 1-1 against them. And it's going to be phenomenal news. Looking here at the predictions of who might be out, it is definitely looking like Chris Jones, Pacheco, Jawan Taylor, Holmes, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce will all sit, which is just phenomenal news for the Broncos winning one game to get into the playoffs. And then we're talking going to the Buffalo Bills on a very cold week with a better defense, with playing with house money, with a young and hungry team, is going to be absolutely, absolutely phenomenal there. So let me know, how are y'all feeling? Do you feel confident that we aren't backing in, or do you feel like a little embarrassed that we're going to make the playoffs by beating the Chiefs backups? Last thing I wanted to break down here is there were a little bit of some snubs here for the Denver Broncos. So I think it is almost impossible for me to think of a player who I've been more impressed with this year than Zach Allen. Little baby J.J. Watt there, played with J.J. Watt when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, and he has just been an absolute game wrecker. You just look at him getting Burrow on the ground 3.5 times in one single game, and just seeing when you look at his next-gen stats, there really is not an interior defensive lineman who has been playing better than him, and he was listed as an alternate for the Pro Bowl, which I think is just absolutely bonkers, and I think that's actually going to light a fire under his helmet and like make him be like, hey man, fine, you want to doubt me? Let's see how that works out for you. You mess around and find out. Kind of cool to see him that Brian Baldinger, I love his appearances on DNVR show. I listen to that all the time. And he came out and was even, he knows ball. He coached in the NFL and he's like, this is a ridiculous snub. To look at his production and have him not in the Pro Bowl is wild. And Zach Allen retweeted it and just said, hey, thanks, man. Don't even care about that. I'll get all pro, which is when the coaches and the players vote for it, not just the fans, and a Super Bowl. So this team isn't thinking about backing down for one single second. They're not thinking about backing in. So do not apologize for the Broncos beating backups to make it in. This team is good, and we are fixing to find out how good they are, because you do not want a young and hungry team on the road with playing with house money, because I know how that's going to end, and I think we all do. In Denver Broncos country, we got a ton to believe in.